Hey, good afternoon, Garret, Biss. I hope you're having a great day today. So I'm excited to continue a discussion about managing our spheres, about the spheres approach, about the message of finding happiness and fulfillment in our lives by approaching everything in our life with a certain philosophy that helps us deal with some of the negative things that we face, some of the challenges, some of the obstacles. Protect ourselves from some of those things that don't directly influence our life but weigh on our minds and can affect the energy that we feel, can affect the emotions that we feel. And then how to deal with those things that do directly affect us, those direct sphere things, in a way that is that empowers us to find the positive from the events or circumstances that we face, and to respond or react with those actions that will help create the environment in the future for us that we desire. So during the video yesterday, somebody brought up a great comment. Danny brought up a great question asking, how do we protect ourselves from the things that other people say? So when we're experiencing life, as we're going through our day, one of the things that does affect us is the way that other people react or relate to us, the things that they say, the things that they do that influence or affect our lives. Now, there's a lot of things out there, there's a lot of nasty people out there saying negative things, saying hurtful things, and it resides in the indirect sphere. So there's things that we might hear about on the news, something that somebody might say in a newspaper article or a blog post that we read about, and it might affect us negatively. But if we think about it, maybe it's somebody that whoever is saying it and whatever they're talking about is not something that directly influences or affects our life. So these would be things that happen in the indirect sphere. Many times it's easy just to recognize that whatever they're saying, whatever their thoughts are, whatever their beliefs are, whatever they're saying about something that influences us or something that we care about, really has no relevance. Whatever they think, whatever they do, really has no relevance on our life. So it's really easy when we can identify that it is in fact something that's in our indirect sphere and it doesn't affect us. It's easy to kind of put it out of our mind and refocus our time and attention to those things that really do matter. But there's also interactions that we have with people that do have an influence or an impact in our life. There's a lot of people that we interact with that are in our direct sphere, whether it's our friends, our family, or our coworkers, or people that we bump into in town. And the interactions that we have with them and the things that they say and the things that they do can have a direct impact on us. But as we've been talking about with the direct sphere, it's always up to us to choose how we allow things to affect us. And it can be really difficult when we're dealing with other people. There's a lot of people that say and do nasty things that can offend us, that can hurt us, that can irritate us, or make us just feel hurt or feel unappreciated. So it's really important to know some ways that we can deal with or address these interactions that we have with other people so that it doesn't influence us negatively. Back to the whole spheres concept. Is there's things that happen in the world around us that affect and influence us. And that happens in the indirect sphere and the direct sphere. And when we're managing our spheres appropriately, we do so that we are in the best emotional place, the best vibration, the best emotional, physical, and spiritual place that we can be, so that the actions that we take are the most positive and have the greatest influence, or the most positive influence on the lives and the environment around us. So when we're being influenced or affected by those people around us and what they're saying and what they're doing and what their beliefs are and the way they treat us, that can really affect us. We can be very sensitive to the things that they say and the things that they do and the things that they share with us. But if we allow it to affect us and create those negative thoughts, create those negative emotions in our mind, well, then that is going to influence or affect the way that we show up and the way that we engage with those things that are important to us. So it's really important to have some ideas, have some tools so that we can protect ourselves and not be as negatively influenced or negatively affected when those people that we care about, when those people that are close to us say or do things that can be hurtful or can be irritating or upsetting, or really just challenge our mood and our thoughts and put us in a negative place. So there's a couple points that I responded to the comment yesterday. There's a couple points that I try to keep in mind that help me deal with other people and relate with other people in the most positive and most constructive way that I can. So this is what I really want to talk about and share some ideas with you, so the next time you have an interaction with somebody and they're not nice, or they say something hurtful, or they say something that's offensive, or they challenge you in some way, that you have some ways to think about or to relate with that, so that it doesn't take that negative toll on you and you don't have to deal with the pain or the suffering that comes from it. So the first thing to know, or the number one thing is to know, and I'm looking at my handwriting right now on the screen. I see that it's it looks like maybe a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old drew those words, and it's because I had to write everything backwards. So if you want to do something challenging this weekend, I invite you to write a bunch of stuff on a whiteboard backwards so that it shows up in mirror image on the screen. So it's quite fun. Hopefully it's neat enough that you can read it, and I don't think I see any letters that are backwards, but if they are, I'm sure you can decipher what it is. The top says protecting ourselves from others' poison, and then the first point is no. So no, and what that means, and what I try to remember when I'm interacting with other people, and full disclosure and complete transparency. These are things that I try to keep in mind, but in no means am I suggesting that I don't get negatively influenced, or that I don't get hurt, or I don't get upset, or I don't get frustrated by other people. I'm certainly not perfect at this philosophy or at applying these things or remembering these things completely all the time. But what I found is that with these things in mind, I'm able to bounce back to a place of compassion and acceptance and understanding much more quickly. And those negative emotions that I feel don't last nearly as long, because I try to remember these things and I see every interaction with other people in the context of these points that I'll share. So the first thing is no. Know that whatever somebody else says to you, when somebody is hurtful, when somebody is disagreeable, when they're just challenging you or saying things to you that are disrespectful or frustrating, know that whatever they say is not a reflection of you. It's not a reflection, it's not defining who you are. It's everything that somebody says, everything that somebody feels is a reflection of who they are. It's a reflection of their character. It's a reflection of their beliefs. It's a reflection of who they are at the time, the energy that they have, the emotions that they're feeling. But in no way something that somebody else says is a reflection of you. So it's really important to realize that and to understand that. Just like if somebody were to challenge your favorite sports team just because they don't like your team or your college or your high school or your hometown, their opinion of it is not what defines the value or the character of that team or that hometown. It's just it's a reflection of them. It's not a reflection of whatever it is they're discussing. And if they're saying something that's hurtful to you, it's not a reflection of you. They might say something that's a little bit of truth to it, and we can talk about that in a second, but something that they say or something that they believe is not something that defines you. So when somebody says something that's disagreeable, just realize that it's them that's saying it. It's their own issue that they're dealing with. It's their own frustration. It's their own character. It's the definition of themselves. It's not the definition of you. So know that. The next thing is remember. Anytime somebody does something that is, anytime we do something that is positive and is an expression of love, whether it's through an act of compassion or understanding or doing a kind gesture for the benefit of another person, these are things that come from love and compassion inside of us. Anytime we say something that is negative, anytime we offend somebody, anytime we cut somebody down, anytime we share, gossip to try to hurt somebody, these are all things that stem from somebody's own insecurities or their own fear. If somebody is, pointing a finger at you or pointing or trying to draw attention to something else, it's usually done because they're trying to avoid or escape or cover up or hide an insecurity that they have or something that they're afraid of. So if somebody comes at you and they're attacking you, realize that oftentimes that is done from their own insecurity. It's an expression of their own insecurity. A lot of times judgment itself, when we judge another person or when another person judges us, they judge us for something that they themselves are insecure about. They judge us, or they judge the things that they say are just a reflection of things that they're afraid of in their own life. Or if they don't feel very secure, if they feel like some of their basic needs are challenged, that's when they go and start attacking other people by saying things that can be offensive or not disagreeable with others. So realize that. And anytime somebody says something and it's offensive to you, or it's frustrating or upsetting, or you feel like you're being attacked, again, it's not a reflection of you, and it's usually stemming from somebody else's own insecurity or their own fears. So remember that. The next thing is to think. There's this quote, and right now I can't remember it off the top of my head. The quote is, hurt people hurt people. I can't remember who said it first, but I've read it. Many people have repeated it, but there's so much truth to that. Hurt people hurt people. So somebody who is hurt is the person who's going to go and hurt somebody else. But it's only when somebody is hurting themselves that they will go on the offensive and they will go attack, and they will, once again, try to shift that attention, shift that blame, shift whatever it is to somebody else because they themselves are hurting. And I try to remember that. I try to think of that and remember that somebody who is hurting me is doing it because they themselves are hurt. And when I can remember that, even no matter what they're saying or what they're doing, it helps me find or come back to a point of compassion a lot. Instead of hearing the painful words that they're saying or listening to the poison that they're spilling from their mouth, I try to look for and remember that they're saying it because they themselves are in pain. And an example I gave yesterday in the comments was, if a dog was starved and a dog had been beaten, and it was in a hurt place, and it was very scared and feeling very insecure. If I were to reach out to that dog and try to do something and it bit me, well, I would be completely understanding that the dog was terrified. The dog had been beaten. The dog didn't know that I was going to hurt him or not. The dog was starving. It was in a bad place. So if the dog bit me, I could easily kind of come to a point of compassion. Of course, I would be shocked. Of course, I would be, frustrated. I'd be hurt. But I could very quickly come back to a place of compassion, realizing that that dog only bit me because it itself was scared and it itself was hurting. So if you can think about that and remember that when somebody says something to you that's offensive or somebody says something to you in an attacking way, realize that they're doing it because they themselves are hurt. And when you can separate the words that they're saying from the emotion that they're in or the place that they're in, then you can come back to and once again find that compassion. Now, in no way do I condone somebody's behavior when they're saying things that are attacking and hurting other people intentionally. I certainly have little patience for that. But when I see it, when somebody attacks me, I try to remember that they're doing it because they're hurt. And that helps me take less offense to anything that they say, helps me disconnect the person from the words that they're saying and realize that they're saying it or that those things are stemming from a bad place within them. The next point I say is realize. So this really comes back to the philosophy that I believe and hold is I understand that every person in the world is simply a product of their nature and their nurture. So their nature being where they started out in life, where they were born, their genetics, and where they started out in life, and then their nurture was every experience that they've had along the way since they were born. And I believe that had I been born in anybody else's circumstances and had I experienced life experience exactly the same as they had, and I had been conditioned exactly the same way that they had through their nurture, that I would think, feel, and believe and act the same way that they do. Now, it might be a stretch for some to believe this, but I think you can agree that if you lived somebody else's life through their lenses, if you saw the world through their lenses, and you'd had every same experience, every same failure, every same upset, every same hurt that they had experienced, that you would act and respond and believe much more similar to that person, if not exactly like that person. So I try to realize this and think about this and remember that if somebody is doing something that's offensive or somebody is attacking me or attacking another person, that I very likely could believe and do and act and have those same fears and have those same insecurities and feel that same pain that they do that is inspiring that negative action. I could feel all those same emotions and have those same beliefs and be just as capable of doing and saying those same things if I was in their shoes and had I lived their life experience. And when we realize this, then once again, we can kind of see the commonality between us, see that they're just a human that's going through the human experience and seeing and feeling and experiencing things in the way that they have that has inspired their beliefs and their actions. And that if we were in their shoes, that we might think and feel and act the same way. And realizing that really helps, once again, break down the offense that I might feel when somebody says something, help me feel less attacked and realize that anything that they say or do is merely an expression of them. And it's not just a definition of me. It is an expression of the pain that they're feeling or the place that they're in. Now, the last point that I share is thank. And when I think of thanking, what I mean is, be thankful for the experience that you're having. Be thankful for... Now, if somebody's being really nasty and somebody's really attacking you, maybe you don't turn and thank them directly, but be thankful for the experience that they've had. And this is why, because when people say things to us and it resonates with us in a bad way, if we feel offended, if we feel challenged in some way, it's really shining a mirror to us to show us and help us understand some of the insecurities that we have. if somebody says something to you and you feel no emotional response from it, if they attack you in a certain way or they say something about you and you feel no emotional response to it, that means that you're very secure in whatever it is that they said. So the example I always think of is if you have blonde hair, and if I were to tell you like you have green hair, well, you have no insecurity about the fact, like you don't question whether or not you have green hair. You know that your hair is blonde, or you know that your hair is black or brown, and you have no question in your mind whether your hair is green or not. So there's no emotional response there. I can tell you over and over, like, I think that your hair is green, and you'll just think I'm crazy because you know that your hair is not green. Well, you have no emotional response because you're very secure and you don't question that. But if I were to tell you something that you had a little bit of an insecurity about, or that resonated with you in a bad way, then it's an indication to you. It helps us understand where our insecurities lie. So I think Brene Brown, she gives a wonderful example. She says, all parents, no matter who you are, have this fear in the back of our mind that we're just kind of screwing it all up. No matter how well it seems like we're doing, we feel like we might be doing something differently, or we could be doing something differently that could be a little bit better. So we all, no matter how good of a parent we are, how well we're doing, or how well our children are doing, we have this little insecurity inside of us, or this voice in the back of our head that's suggesting, like, hey, maybe like with this experiment of parenthood, maybe we're screwing it all up. So if somebody were to tell me that I had green hair, I wouldn't have any emotional response. If somebody were to tell me, I think you're a bad father and you're not doing a good job raising your child, well, I'm going to feel a little bit offended. And I'll feel offended if it's something that I question in myself, or if it's an insecurity, even a little slight insecurity that I have. The greater the insecurity, the greater the question that you have over that character, or over that trait, or over that part of your personality, then the more emotional response you'll have. So understanding this, that's why I say be thankful. So if somebody says something to you and it feels offensive or it feels frustrating, be thankful for that opportunity to shine light on a potential insecurity that you have, an issue within yourself that you can gain clarity on, or that you can work on, or that you can process, or that you can deal with yourself. Like I said, don't be thankful to the person maybe if they're really nasty and you don't want to be thankful, or you can be thankful to them for engaging in the conversation with you. But just in general, be thankful for that experience, so that you can know a little bit more about yourself and kind of deal with and gain clarity on an issue that you might have, or an insecurity that you might have. Now, once again, I said, I'm certainly not having these thoughts in my mind when I'm interacting with other people. It's certainly not foolproof. I still get frustrated. I still get hurt at times. But by thinking through these things, by knowing that what they say is a reflection of them, by remembering that everything that somebody says that's negative stems from an insecurity or a fear, remembering that it's hurt people that hurt people, realizing that anything somebody says or does is a combination of their nature and their nurture, and that if somebody says something that offends me, that it's a good chance for me to look at myself and identify where I might have some insecurities. When I remember all these things, it doesn't protect me 100% of the time from getting hurt or frustrated or upset. I still go through those emotional pain, but what happens is I'm able to get back to compassion. I'm able to get back to a positive place much more quickly. I'm able to let go of any pain or any frustration or any hurt or any upset that I feel much more quickly, and get back to that place that I want. Get back to that place where I can engage in that action sphere and engage in the communication, engage in the interactions with people around me, engage in the work that I do from that place that I want to be, which is a place of compassion and love. So realize these things. If you're often being upset by somebody, if there's one person in your life that often upsets you or frustrates you or that offends you, think of these things when you're interacting with them, and think of these things in general. Remember these things in general, because it will help you immensely avoid some of that unnecessary pain and suffering, and help get you back to that positive vibration. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this really helps you in dealing with people and protecting yourself from that negative vibration or the negative influence of the poison that some other people can share with us. And if you got something valuable from this video, please share it with somebody else. If you have any questions or comments you'd like to continue this discussion, then I'll look for your comments, and I'll look for continuing this discussion and providing some replies. But you have an awesome rest of your day and a great weekend, and thank you for joining me on the video.